Hey guys, what's up? I'm heading over to the east side right now, but my Uncle Rick called just as I was getting ready to go out the door. He's my father's brother. Um, his wife, my Aunt Debbie, died last year. They were married 60 years. And Aunt Debbie was my protector. She knew something was going on in the house, but she didn't know everything. But there was times at family get-togethers that my stepmom had me in a room, and saying just wicked shit to me, and Debbie would always take me aside and she'd say, "Don't you listen to her, Mark Andrew. We love you." But yesterday, or the day before yesterday, was a horrible day. It was supposed to be my son's wedding. It's one of the worst days I've had in my life. And that's saying a lot. I mean, I was beaten up by a motorcycle club when I was 16 and a half. Extreme mental abuse as a child. Physical abuse. I've been in a maximum security penitentiary. I've been homeless for a couple years. I've gone through heroin withdrawals. So when I say that day before yesterday was one of the worst days I have had in a very long time, that's saying a lot. Then I had a bilateral pulmonary embolism too and almost died recently, but I'll go over that whenever I get done over here. I got a call too from my homie Johnny. He had a heart attack, so he's in the hospital. But my Uncle Rick called me. I just got off the phone with him and we had a really good conversation. When his wife, my Aunt Debbie, died, I didn't want to go to the funeral. Number one, I'm tired of funerals. Buried too many people. Number two, I didn't want to be around my father and my stepmother. When I was a young kid, I didn't deal with all the hurt that they put on me positively. I started drinking and doing drugs, trying to numb myself up. And I started fighting, taking my anger out on people. So this time I decided the only way, and I've looked at the chessboard, every angle. I decided the only way I could deal with it positively when they started spitting shit at my wife and everything else was to just detach. And that's what I did. But every time I'm going to be around them, the stress is just because I don't want nothing. Anything could pop. I could pop, my dad could pop. And it could turn a bad situation into a real bad situation. Because if we go at each other, it'll be bad, real bad. But I went to the memorial service, but I didn't go to afterwards. And I wrote a 4-page letter to my Uncle Rick the night before. And I didn't go into me and my father's argument and what's going on between us and my stepmom. But I told Rick, that I got to thinking about not going, but I had to go to her memorial because Debbie was my protector. And I loved her very much. She was my all-time favorite aunt. and I loved her very much. And I told Rick, I said, you know, I was thinking, this is what I told him in the letter. I said, I sat down to write you this letter to let you know that I wasn't going to be afterwards when everybody got together, but I had to be at the service. And I got to thinking while I'm writing this letter that all the really hard, rough times, it was always you and Aunt Debbie that were there. When my mom's brother Steve blew his brains out, back then they didn't have people that cleaned that stuff up. It was my Uncle Rick and Aunt Debbie that went in that kitchen and cleaned that mess up. When my father and my mother got a divorce, my dad stayed with my Uncle Rick and Aunt Deb for a while until he could get another place and everything. And when we would go to visit my dad, we would go to Rick and Deb's. And when my mother got raped, I remember the police being there with those giant loud walkie-talkies. I remember the bloody mattress. And my Uncle Rick, even though my mom and my dad had divorced, my Uncle Rick went over there as moral support for my mother. Because I remember he was sitting in that apartment, the kitchen table just had 2 chairs. He was sitting there at the chair. My mom was crying. All the really rough times, Rick and Deb were always there. And I told them how much that meant to me. And I told him thank you. I don't know if my dad's ever told him thank you for all the things he's done. My stepmom is the reason Rick and my Uncle Rick and my dad didn't talk for 10 years. It's my stepmom is the problem. You know, and I've been told that when she first came into the family, everybody noticed real quick that something wasn't right with her. She was slinging shit out the side of her mouth at people. And my grandma Rose asked everybody, she said, you know, Ken just got out of a divorce. Don't respond to her. Well, my grandma died not long after that. And no, you know, my one uncle told me, Mark, if your grandmother would have lived, she'd have put an end to that shit a long time ago. I know she would have. But my Uncle Rick stood up to her. And my family would call them nasty grams. She'll get put out about something and send you a long email chewing your ass out and shit. And Rick got tired of it, and he sent her one back and basically told her to go fuck herself. And my dad called him up, threatening to rip his head off and shit down his neck, and they didn't talk for 10 fucking years over her. And that's why me and my father don't talk. She's a very insecure woman. Her own family, my father told me when they first got together that her mother said to my dad, do you know what you're getting into? She is not right in the head. And her family is not close like my family was, and she always resented that, and she's done a real good job of busting it up. And she was always insecure about my mother. She couldn't get to my mother, so she took it out on me and my brother. I mean, you got to be a pretty evil woman. When my mother got raped, she sent me and Kenny to live with my dad and stepmom because the guy that did it said if she called the police, he would come back and kill me and my brother. And I can't count the times. I can close my eyes and I can. You want to go? Go ahead. All right. So I can't count the times. I can close my eyes and still to this day see her. Just the hate in her eyes, her gritted teeth and snarling, telling me, your mother didn't love you. Your mother didn't want you. You gave her stomach aches. That's why you ended up here with us. I'm sure my father heard that as many times as she said it to us. And he never corrected her on that. I found out when I was living in Arizona in my late 30s that what had truly happened. I called my dad. I said, is this true? He said, yeah. It takes a pretty evil woman to know that another woman was violently assaulted like that, and then to tell her children that their mother didn't love them and want them. I mean, that gives you a little indication on how evil this bitch is. And I used to study psychiatry, psychology, all that stuff, to do battle with the psychiatrist and the psychologist. But I know what her diagnosis would be. She's a malignant narcissist. If you look up a malignant narcissist, that's her. My Aunt Debbie got Alzheimer's. And last time I got my bike, I rode over to see her. My Uncle Rick and my Uncle Bobby said she probably won't even remember you, Mark. And as soon as I walked in the kitchen, her face just lit up. She said, Mark Andrew. And she come over and gave me a big old kiss. And we were talking outside. And she said, do you know what my biggest regret is in my entire life, Mark? And I'm thinking, I can't think of nothing that this woman would regret. She was a wonderful person. Everybody loved my Aunt Debbie. She said, my biggest regret is introducing that fucking bitch to your father. Because she used to work at Southwestern Bell with my stepmom. And my Aunt Debbie's the one that introduced them. And I said, it's not your fault, Debbie. You didn't know she was a bitch like that. She wears a mask. And she's real slick the way what gets her off is causing emotional pain to people and causing strife in between people. And she's real smart the way she does it. She tries to play this holy person, this righteous, just person, but she gets you to the side where there's no witnesses and just says hateful fucking things. I remember one time, it was Easter, and we were at my dad and stepmom's, and Aunt Debbie was kicking the ball, soccer ball, with me and my brother Kenny, and my stepmom goes, what are you doing out there with them? Why aren't you coming here with us? Just out of spite, my Aunt Debbie stayed out there that whole fucking Easter with me and my brother Kenny. I'd run in and get her sodas and shit. She refused to go in the house. She's the one that was babysitting me when I was a kid, and she woke up in the morning, 3 years old. I had an open beer and a cigarette lit, acting like I was reading the comic strips. I thought, nah, but I've had other people say, yeah, that's a true story. I must have seen my dad smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer, and reading the paper, but I'm going to get off here, and I'll do one about my real bad day the other day, but it was really a blessing hearing from my Uncle Rick. I thanked him again, for always being there in the hard times. But I'll be back in a minute. I just got to take care of something here real quick.